Okay, hold on. Technical issues. I hate those. Okay. Good evening, everyone. We are back. It's a Wednesday night, so it's direct line. We are joined by Robin Ficker today, and later we'll be joined by Delegate Brenda Thiam from Western Maryland, a newly minted delegate from Western Maryland. Welcome, everyone, and I will toss to our host, Mark Uncapher.
And back in the slot is Don Irvine, my co-host. Robin, welcome. I used to think the A, B, C, and D was kind of easy. You learned that in kindergarten. This year has gotten a little complicated in Montgomery County because we have a number of ballot initiatives. Invariably, people know what they're going to vote for offices, but then at the last minute, they suddenly realize they got to know about these ballot initiatives. So quickly, which are the ones we should vote for? Robin?
Robin, can you hear us?
Oh,
Robin? Okay.
Live broadcasting. Robin, can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Robin?
Oh. Hold on. Let me text.
We just had Robin.
Hey, Robin, you're on mute again, I think.
No, he doesn't hear us.
Yeah, hold on.
Well, you should vote for B and D and against A and C.
Okay, and obviously, give us the reason why we should vote for the ones that B and D.
So what's the technical issue here?
I think he's having a delay on his Wi-Fi.
Okay. Talk amongst ourselves here as we wait for.
Yeah, I mean this. Yeah.
Oh, we lost.
We lost Robin.
Nice way to start the show.
Yeah. It's Wi-Fi.
Okay. So here we are talking live.
I think we had a couple of big breaking news issues today that I think
we did, and we have Don Irvine on. We're hoping that Robin will rejoin us. Either that, or we're going to put the reason why we should vote for the ones that B and D.
Okay, Mickey, it looks like he's still on mute. If we unmutes.
Yeah. I tell you, the way they did the
There we go. Robin. So B and D.
Robin?
B and D. Why
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So tell us about question B and why we should vote for it.
Yes, I can. Okay. All right. Question B limits property tax revenue increases to the rate of inflation. And that means that we will never have another 9% increase like we had in 2016. That's the reason we collected the signatures to put B on the ballot, because in 2016 we had a 9% increase while Social Security recipients got no increase at all. So what did the council do? To try to confuse matters, after we had our signatures for B approved, certified, the council put question A on the ballot, which allows them to control the rates and for the assessments to rise unfettered. So what does that mean? That means that question A is a whopping big tax increase, because from 2003 to 2017, the assessments increased 129%. But the limit in the charter is based on the inflation rate, and the inflation rate increased only 41%, not the 129% that the assessments increased. So if question A had been in effect from 2003 to 2017, our property tax revenues would have increased 129%, 3 times the existing charter limit. Question A is a double whammy increase. It allows automatic increases because of the rate of increase in assessments, and then it also allows the council to exceed the limit and increase taxes as much as they want. With a huge deficit, tax increases are looming next year. Question B will stop those tax increases, or at least limit them to the rate of inflation. Question A allows a big increase next year, and we're going to get it.
Okay. Now, what happens if both of these questions pass? If A and B
well,
were
I had a legal opinion on that, and
right,
and the automatic increases because of the rate of increase next year, and we're going into effect.
Okay.
They are not mutually exclusive as C and D are, because A and B can live together. The assessments will be allowed to increase. However, they can't increase beyond the amount that the inflation rate allows the limit to increase. So A and B can both pass and then both go into effect, but A is going to be a lot more limited than it would be if A didn't pass.
Got it. Okay. Now, the council is pushing back, and a number of people are pushing back. Obviously, this is something that is a real interest to property owners. What do you say to people who are renters? I mean, a third of the electorate are renters. What's their stake in all of this? Robin?
Wherever he is, he's got.
Well, keep in mind that property tax increases are passed right through in the form of rent increases.
Right.
So when we had that 9% property tax increase, rents went way up. A lot of unaffordable housing was created because housing was pushed up into the unaffordable category. And also a lot of minorities were kept stuffed in apartments. These property tax increases are passed right through to renters.
So they end up paying in the end, is what you're saying. It becomes one of the expenses that gets passed on to them.
And Mark, one other point that they're going to inevitably pay in the end, and these poor people.
Okay.
We need to vet people's Wi-Fi.
Can I make a suggestion that we go to Brenda right now?
Hold on 1 second.
See if she's back.
Yep, let me do that. Hold on.
Yeah, this thing with Robin is just not going to work.
Yeah, I think what's happening is there's a delay between what we're recording and what's showing up on Facebook, and so he's waiting to hear the question on Facebook, and that's a 20-second or whatever delay.
Why is you think he's watching the Facebook feed?
Oh, here
right,
it is.
Right. I think he's watching
Robin's
the Facebook face. Hey, Robin, we're just having a lot of technical trouble. Maybe,
I'm here.
Yeah, maybe we can. Okay, can you hear me online right now? So why don't you just give me your take on the other ballot initiatives as well? And because we're coming up at the end.
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
I can hear you, but your voice is somewhat distorted. But there was one more point I wanted to make. David Blair has spent $100,000 to try and defeat question B. The question is, what is he getting in return? Why would someone spend $100,000 of their own money to defeat a question concerning property taxes. What's the quid pro quo David Blair is getting from the county government in return for spending $100,000 to defeat this property tax limit in question B?
Okay. Well, thank you, Robin, and good luck. And obviously, you've put on more referendums than anybody else in the history of Montgomery County. How many has it been so far?
And
Well, question B is going to pass.
Okay. Thank you very much. Great seeing you again. So our next guest is Brenda Thiam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Like champion.
Cham. Let's get that straight, because we're going to be hearing a lot from you now that you're going to be in Annapolis. Tell us a little bit. You served previously on the council, so you've had that experience. How do you think it's going to be different going to Annapolis?
Well, let's clarify that one. I was running for city council here.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, I was running for the election. So not yet served on city council, but I was in the race for city council. Mm-hmm.
And tell me a little bit about what you're looking to do in Annapolis. What kind of committees are you going to be on?
Right. So in Annapolis, when I get there as a freshman delegate, I plan to hopefully make some good relationships across the aisle and with other colleagues in the Republican caucus, make some good decisions on behalf of Marylanders. And certainly I'm there to represent my district, which is 2B here in Hagerstown, and to just be a voice for them to get to Annapolis and bring information back from the city here and taking it to Annapolis and hopefully get some good results.
Now, how much of your district, do you have a single member district, or are you primarily Hagerstown? How does that?
For the delegates, I am District 2B. And
2B.
we have Neil Parrott, who is, I believe, 2A. Along with Delegate Bill Wyville is also 2A. Yes.
So B is just Hagerstown, or a little bit more?
Yes, typically the city.
Got it. Okay.
And some other pieces, but mainly the city.
So you really are going to be focused on their issues. Tell me a little bit about, obviously one of the big topics is going to be the budget for the coming year. We expect to have a big decrease. What are your thoughts about that?
Yes, certainly coming off the pandemic, and I mean we're still rounding the bend on that. I'd like to believe that we're coming on the last leg and coming out of it. But certainly the pandemic has done a lot of damage to local businesses and business owners, and a lot of businesses have had to close. They didn't quite make it out and make it successfully. So some of them have closed. A lot of businesses have closed. It's very unfortunate that has happened. Some are maintaining and sustaining and really just literally keeping their head above water. Just the city in general. They've just started back collecting like utility payments that was on hold for a while, and those things, generate revenue for the city. But when they were on hold for a while, not collecting water bill payments and things of that nature, some are maintaining and sustaining and put real challenge in the budget. So, going over to Annapolis, we already know we're dealing with a shortfall, and I just so happen to be assigned to Appropriations Committee. So that's the former seat that Senator Quarterman used to be with the Appropriations Committee. So I'll be filling that role as far as the committee is concerned.
That's great. So do you have particular priorities that you're looking to push when you're in Annapolis beyond sort of the issues for Hagerstown?
Right. Well, the current commission is a big conversation. I think everyone is aware of that as far as education for the state of Maryland. The governor vetoed it. So I'm not quite sure where that conversation is going to pick up whenever we return to session, which is going to be a very modified schedule. As I understand, I've not gotten a clear schedule as far as what that's going to look like when we return January the 13th. But current commission is something that I'd be interested in knowing what are going to be some conversations around, trimming some of the fat off that, because it's a pretty hefty price tag for Marylanders to carry.
It's hard to see. I know obviously they passed that. There's going to be a veto override. There were questions pre-COVID, really, well, not pre-COVID, but before the lockdown, about how all it was going to be funded.
Right.
Now we're dealing with the added headache of the potential shortfall in the overall state budget. It's kind of hard to see how Kerwin is going to get
pushed through. If it'll push through, right?
Can the Democrats actually? I'm going to, in good conscience, which is hard to say about a Democrat, I guess, but could they, in good conscience, actually try to pass that? Knowing what we know now in terms of the budget problems we have.
Good point. I mean, I think everyone is very aware to the huge holes that the pandemic has left in the budget, and hopefully there'll be some changing of minds regarding the Kern Commission, and can we afford it time? We may not be able to afford it. So I'm hopeful we're going to have some meaty discussions about that.
Now, there's also been a lot of discussion around the state about COVID and the way it was handled. And I think it seems that attitudes seem to change from where you are. You've been, every area has been hard hit. And where are your schools right now? What's the state of play in businesses in Hagerstown?
Right. So regarding schools, some of our students have returned back face-to-face, instruction in front of a teacher in a school. But that's only, if I understand correctly, our students with special needs and our English learner. Those are the students that are in school right now. And I believe I heard that beginning this Monday, and I forgot also our pre-kindergarten and kindergartners, they're in school right now. And as I understand it, I believe our students that attend the technical high school are going to be returning soon.
So they're doing it on a phased basis, basically prioritizing probably the people who it's the hardest, I would assume, to be able to accommodate by what we're doing by Zoom or alternative means.
Right. Well, I have a high schooler. She's 10th grade, so she's not anytime soon for her.
Yes.
Which she doesn't like. She's ready to get back to school.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I was curious about in terms of how, how the students feel that are up there and the parents feel about this. And, I guess at this point in time, there are no high school sports. Will there be any up there?
There is actually a letter that Senator Cordovan just sent out to the superintendent to look at fall sports and get our students back out playing and socializing through sports. Now, there was some mixed feelings with that, because some people felt that we need to get students in school first for instruction and not so much focus on athletics. But that's you can agree with that or not. That's a good argument to have. But as I understand it, we're really going to try to get those students involved in fall sports with some, those COVID-friendly precautions that we'll have to make to ensure that students are safe.
Well, we certainly want that, but we've also learned a lot about how to make people safe, and also how to address people if they do get caught. And as we know, kids are less likely or less vulnerable than others as well. So part of that balancing can take place.
Right. Exactly.
I think we have to be like the president. I mean, not be too panicky about the situation either. I mean, that's been one of my bugaboos, I think, throughout this whole thing, is that I do want people to stay safe. I don't want people to get ill or take, and just be reckless about it. But on the other hand, I think we all have to live our lives, and we have to be able to do things. I mean, you talked about the businesses that have been closed, and no matter where you are, there are businesses that are just not going to return. They just can't. They've lost it. They've lost everything, and they cannot, get back up and running. So we have to kind of find that right balance, I think, of how many precautions do we take, and with these schools as they get back open, my fear always is that, one or two kids test positive and then everybody goes into a panic mode and then we're shut down again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, we have to live with COVID-19. It just not comparing it to the flu. I don't want to misspeak that, but just like the flu season comes around, and many people, unfortunately, are succumb to the flu. COVID-19 is something that we have to live with. It's not going to go away, and just learn how to be cautious, wash our hands, and socially distance, and clean surfaces, and lots of wipes and Clorox wipes. Just be careful. Just being careful.
Now, one of the other issues that's going to be taken up in the General Assembly is the sort of relationship with the police, but also crime in the state, or I should say crime in particular in Baltimore, which has certainly been one of the most challenged jurisdictions when it comes to crime. Not exclusively so, but certainly they have more than others. What are your thoughts about some of those proposals and how to strike that balance between those two issues?
Yeah, certainly Baltimore has seen its share of crime and shootings and murders and people dying, which is very unfortunate for such a beautiful city that has a lot of good potential. I met a couple of weeks ago, I went to an event in Baltimore City and met a lot of the candidates that are running for city council. Kim Klacik was there. Pastor Sherry Wright, I believe, is running for mayor.
Shannon, right?
Shannon Wright is running for mayor. A few other candidates were there that were running for city council. So I'm hopeful that they'll be able to win those seats, come with some great ideas. Baltimore has been under a Democrat leadership for many years, and look at what it's gotten them. So I'm hopeful that if our Republican friends win those seats, they can come in with some fresh ideas and turn that city around and really make it a city where people aren't afraid to, drive at night, but they'll feel safe in those neighborhoods.
It's an interesting contrast, because in other cities around the country, I lived in New York in the 90s, before I came down to Maryland in the mid 90s, and in that area there was a very high crime and murder rate, and successful policing efforts that were more focused were able to bring that murder rate down, so that although New York is so many times the size of Baltimore, it does not have that problem. There are murders, but it doesn't have as many proportionally murders as in Baltimore. And what's interesting is it changed the whole dynamic of the city. So, today, Brooklyn is a hot borough, and people are moving, into all sorts of different neighborhoods. And it had been a much more dynamic place because there was less of the fear of crime. And it really seems to be one of those things that can unlock cities, or at least create kind of a virtual cycle in which people feel comfortable about living there, having families there, not feeling they have to go to the suburbs or move someplace else because they're safe. Safety is really one of the major things that we expect from government.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can't, the conversation of defunding the police, and, that's really ripe for the Democrats, what they're preaching and encouraging that we do. We can't support that. A lot of our police departments are really operating on a budget where they're even short-staffed. They don't have fully staffed police officers to work in their department. So we can't look at defunding and taking money away, but if anything, we have to operate with a full budget, fully staff these police departments so that they can keep our streets safe.
And acknowledging the fact, we do expect that officers abide by the law, and we want to hold them accountable, because
the ones that don't, hold them accountable.
One of the problems over the years with the Baltimore police force has been, frankly, they've had internally some more than how shall I say, their fair share of challenges. I mean, think of the gun unit that wasn't really a gun unit; it was a shakedown unit, and those officers were charged with crimes and are paying the price for that.
Absolutely, weed them out, get them out. You know, they're not fit to be police officers, but otherwise, we've got to be behind our police officers as they keep our streets safe.
It is frustrating too, isn't it, that there are laws on the book to address that. What we need to do is figure out ways of enforcing those laws.
To enforce the law, right?
The existing laws, just as we know that there's been a lot of Republican efforts on gun crimes in Baltimore, and a recognition that say, Republicans and Democrats, one of those areas that both parties can really work on is making sure there's sufficient penalties when somebody steals a gun that can be end up using for crime, that becomes an added penalty. And also when criminals are caught with guns, that holding them accountable for having crime. It's something that we probably can all agree on.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, Brenda, you were talking earlier about a modified schedule that the assembly will be having, and that you're not sure exactly how it's going to be. I'm just kind of curious, as you said that, in terms of, how modified it might wind up being. I mean, are we talking about, the modifications for both in-person and remote somehow you guys are going to be doing, or also a schedule that is compacted down so it's not going to go quite as long, and will that affect how much legislation could possibly be passed? With an overwhelmingly Democratic legislature, less legislation probably is better for us.
Your bills that'll get passed because we don't have a lot of time.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't even want to guess at what it is. All I know is it's going to be a very different schedule than the norm, and it's going to be compacted. I'm sure there are going to be lots of Zooms and virtual meetings, I imagine. Certainly, as I understand it, we have to meet face to face for certain things like voting and whatnot. So we know that's going to be happening. But otherwise, I imagine it's probably going to be good old Zoom coming to the rescue.
We've learned a lot about that.
Oh yes, we have.
Now, tell us a little bit more about your background. So, what's been your career in the past?
Right.
Or current career, because of course this is a part-time legislature. I shouldn't say past tense.
Well,
tense, right?
No, actually you're correct. I am I was a special educator. I worked for the school system for Washington County public school system for 13 years. So my profession, if you will, is education, and specifically children with autism or children with disabilities, intellectual disabilities. So that's been my lifelong work, in my adult life, being a teacher, special ed teacher. I've been an administrator at a school in Montgomery County for children with autism. I previously, right before I was appointed, I was working at a company here in Washington County, supporting the needs of students with autism. So with the busy schedule that I have been informed that I'm going to have, I have since resigned that position.
Okay.
So I'll be doing the delegate full time.
Okay. Mm-hmm. We'll keep you busy, certainly, yes. and one of the things is constituent work will keep you busy as well. Absolutely. You'll be amazed at some of the requests that you get. I've talked to enough already. I've talked to enough legislators and people's idea of constituent service can be a little strange sometimes.
Yes, I concur with that. I've already gotten a couple of inbox messages and a couple of phone calls, and I try to respect everyone's. That might be important for you, and I mull it over and kick it around in my head and share it with my chief of staff, and but eventually I want to be able to have some type of town hall or a modified town hall to really connect with the constituents, to know what they feel is important to share with me, so that I can take that back to Annapolis. So we're going to be doing some conversations, hopefully probably on a virtual platform, some type of face-to-face, but again, on a smaller scale to respect COVID-19 and all of its precautions that it brings So eventually, I'm hoping that we'll be able, before the session starts, be able to connect with constituents, hear from them so that they'll have an opportunity to share what their concerns are.
Well, that's actually one advantage of Zoom is it does facilitate more interaction. And before, I guess, if hearings you had to go and sign up in Annapolis, and we'll see what the process is on Zoom since it becomes that much more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Don, do you get more questions?
I do. I mean, going back to your background a little bit too, it's just that, so you've had, this is great that you've worked with these special needs kids, these autism kids. That's wonderful. I mean, how did you make this transition, or where did the passion for the politics come from?
I know. It's almost like I jumped off a cliff to make the connection between special ed and politics. You know, I know I totally get it. It's hard to see that connection. But politics, if you will, came to me about 5 years ago. There was a vacancy for county commissioner here in Washington County. And after lots of complaining to my husband about what Hagerstown needs, what it doesn't have, what I think it should have, and why don't we have this? Why do we have that? And my husband just finally said, just run for office. Be a part of be at the table, to be a part of the conversation, to make some things happen. And I thought, wow, I never thought of running for any type of political office. I've never been in politics before. I'm a special educator. I mean, we're nurturers and nice people. You know, I figured we'd get eaten alive in the political arena. But I gave it some really deeper thought when the city council election was coming around about a year ago. And I started thinking around October, November, maybe I should run for city council. So I just gave it a little more thought and decided, yeah, I want to be at the table making decisions that impact the lives of people who live in Hagerstown. And as I was doing my campaigning and door knocking, I love door knocking, meeting people, sharing my platform and listening to what they felt like was needed in Hagerstown. I did that all year long. And when the state delegate position became available, I sort of toggled it around and sort of argued with myself, well, I've been doing city council race, you know, I might be letting people down if I do the delegate. So many people have been supporting me for the city council race, but it was like an epiphany. I thought I can do greater work if I'm chosen as the delegate at the state level than I can at the local level. So that's kind of where I thought that I'm definitely going to do the state delegate application. And voila, here I am.
There you are. Sounds good.
So I want to follow up with that real quick. So what does your husband and your daughter think about it now that you're there? You're in it. It's one thing as a spouse. I mean, when I ran for state senate in 2010, my wife, to me, I mean, and that was because of Dwight. You know, I give credit to Dwight for all of that, but you know, she was supportive, and I was actually surprised that she was supportive of that. But I also think that at the same point in time, she figured he's not going to win anyway. So what was the risk?
Actually, when I talked it over with my husband, when the seat became vacant, and I was talking with my husband, do you think I should apply for it? I mean, I'm so green in this. I was just getting my feet wet with the city council race. And after I did some research and I looked up the duties of a delegate, I thought, wow, okay, well, it's not brain surgery. That's good. I didn't do well in anatomy and physiology in college. So I think I'll be okay. I could do this. They were ecstatic. They were my greatest, and still are my greatest cheerleaders. My daughter, who's 15, has already said, when are we going to go house looking in Annapolis? No,
it doesn't.
We're not moving to Annapolis. We're not moving to Annapolis. So I had to explain to her, you know, I'm probably going to be away in January. What with this whole COVID, I don't even know what it's going to look like. But typically, you know, you're away during the session. So I don't know yet.
Yeah, so she's like, Mom, hey, okay, so at least you get a hotel room. Can I join you for
yeah.
Let's party.
With the virtual learning thing, she could.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly
In
right.
the hotel. I'll be back around 10 at night.
Yeah, school is anywhere, anytime almost.
Anywhere. Right, exactly. So who knows?
That's great.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you
Yes.
being on the show, and
Thank you for
wish
having
you
me.
the best of luck. And we actually look forward after the session to have you back and get a little sense of what your impressions are and what it was like to be in Annapolis in 2021.
You got it. I plan to come back.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good one.
Thank you, Brenda.